Alright, so this is a little bit of a weird one because, to be honest, I didn't even know the Chicago Bulls did this, and it is honestly like a secret at the moment because, like, none of the big reporters really touched on it a whole lot, and it seemed like it just kind of really flew under the radar when every single person and their dad was signing with a new NBA team. But according to NBC Sports and a couple other reporters as well, and the main one being NBC Sports Chicago, so a pretty big, of course, Chicago sports news outlet, is actually saying that the Chicago Bulls have signed Goran Dragic to the team. In fact, they actually released an article saying, "Who is Goran Dragic, the Bulls' new point guard?" Now, I'm sure if you're a Chicago Bulls fan, you've probably heard about this, potentially. Or maybe not, because no one really posted about this. In fact, to reconfirm, I actually texted a couple of my mates and just asked them, "Did you know Chicago Bulls signed Goran Dragic?" And they kind of looked at me like I was retarded or something. Like, I don't know, they kind of looked at me like, what is this guy talking about? And then if you even look at this guy's Wikipedia, even Wikipedia are like, no, the Chicago Bulls didn't sign Goran Dragic, but they actually did. They went out and signed him, and this is a very odd signing, and there are a lot of articles, in fact, ones that are from things like NBC Sports or similar articles like it, that are actually saying this move doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And in fact, you might be right. I'm not actually too sure why Chicago necessarily did this, although I do like it. I do think this is it is a decent move, but only if they do something. Again, if you actually look at the salary cap list for the Chicago Bulls right now, it still does say that Goran Dragic is actually a pending free agent, which is weird because this news was actually announced like 2 weeks ago. This is how like odd it is that this Goran Dragic situation has happened. And look, I do think Goran Dragic is an okay, like, you know, 13th man or something to have on the team. But this team is stacked with guards. Way too many guards. First of all, you've got Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmun. Jesus Christ, I still get Tourette's every time I try and say his last name. Javonte Green is also there. And then you could still technically count DeMar DeRozan as a guard, even though he plays small forward now for the Chicago Bulls. I mean, he still is, you know, a wing type player. And then you got Goran Dragic. So there's basically 7 guards on this team, which is flat out ridiculous because most of them can't play a different position. Look, Lonzo and Alex Caruso can switch from 1 through 3. Zach LaVine can sometimes play small forward. But most of them just are guards. And it is kind of odd that the Bulls have so many guards on their team. But I do think signing Goran Dragic was kind of a need because the way I see it is here is you're going to have Lonzo and Zach LaVine as the starters, and then you're going to have Alex Caruso and Ayo Dosunmun coming off the bench with Javonte Green maybe playing small ball, small forward, whatever it may be, right? Fair enough. And then when an injury happens, then you would slot in Goran Dragic into that rotation. But then the issue is Kobe White. Kobe White does not make any sense on this team. I have spoken about this many times before, and I still think the Chicago Bulls should trade him. And speaking to Bulls fans as well, they are somewhat in agreement with me, and it just makes sense. Look, I know his trade value is not great, and that's the reason I think they haven't traded him, is because his trade value is not good. But when you have so many guards on this team right now, I don't know if his trade value is going to get any higher than what it is. And the fact of the matter is that there were a couple of, you know, free agents or tradable players that they could have gone for that would have been very solid for this team. The very big and important thing is they need some backup forward depth. Whether that's power forward or small forward, they kind of just need guys that can play both the positions. Now, they of course brought back Derrick Jones, which made a whole lot of sense. Derrick Jones is an incredible defender for this team who helps out quite a bit. But when you had dudes that were up for trade by teams like Oklahoma, like a couple of those veterans dudes that were there, one being Jermichael Green, who recently ended up getting bought out because they couldn't find a trade. That would have been a good move. That would have been a really good move to maybe approach Oklahoma and say, do you want to give us Jermichael Green and a protected first-round pick or something, and we'll give you Kobe White. And this would have been a good move for both teams. You bring in a very solid veteran backup forward who can play 18 minutes per game for you, add solid defense and shooting, and then the Oklahoma City Thunder get Kobe White, a young player that's good for them, and you also get a first-round pick back, which you could use to trade for another forward. But instead, they've kept Kobe White, which is, I still feel like a weird one. And I'm not too sure. I just feel like this team might be a little bit stacked on too many guards. Although I do have faith in what is kind of going on right now in Chicago. I was a very big fan of how they constructed their team. Again, I'm a big Lonzo Ball fan. I think Lonzo Ball is an incredible defender, playmaker, all of the above, right? But yeah, I do feel like they do need to move on from Kobe White. In fact, they could have gone to the Utah Jazz as well, who look like they're possibly going to be trading away everyone. And they could have maybe said, we'll give you Kobe White and a couple seconds maybe. And they could have brought back in Rudy Gay and Jared Vanderbilt, who would have been two incredible players for this for this Chicago Bulls team, rather. That could have put them into finals contention. Because right now, in my opinion, they're not in finals contention because I still feel like they're one or two forwards away. And Jared Vanderbilt and Rudy Gay could have been great for them off that bench. They would have been so good. The issue is this Bulls team just has too many injuries all the time. And then when they have all these injuries, they don't have enough of these, backup forwards and forward depth to or even wing depth to account for the injuries. And I don't know, signing Goran Dragic is just a bit of a weird thing. They went in free agency with the big thing of needing to add big man depth and his forward depth, and they managed to get Andre Drummond and Goran Dragic, which I think Drummond was a fantastic signing by the Bulls. I made a separate video on that, which should be coming out shortly after this one. Could be coming out before this one, who even knows. But I thought that was a fantastic signing by the Chicago Bulls that just made a whole lot of sense. But yeah, there's forwards out there that they should go and get. And I'm not saying that Rudy Gay is completely taken off the table. They could, of course, go out and get him. I believe he will 100% probably get traded at this point, and he'd be good for them. And Kobe White, just on the Bulls right now, even though I think a lot of Bulls fans still love him, he doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I don't know if he's going to do a whole lot more. He's in that weird Colin Sexton situation right now. But even in a worse situation, so at least Colin Sexton is guaranteed around 25 to 30 minutes per game. Kobe White's only getting 16 minutes per night at sometimes. So yeah, I think going after a Rudy Gay or Jared Vanderbilt will be cool. But don't get me wrong, signing Goran Dragic might have been weird, but it still is a good decision. But they do need to make that Kobe White move. So that's why I feel like they might have signed Goran Dragic, because they know they're going to be moving on from Kobe White to add in some forward depth. And then they can have, Goran Dragic be their 13th man instead of having Kobe White be like their 11th man. I think that fits the team a whole lot better and makes a whole lot more sense. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you guys agree with me on this, Chicago Bulls thing? Did you guys know that they even signed Goran Dragic, or is this kind of just flown under the radar? I wouldn't even be surprised if some of you guys just didn't believe me or NBC Sports, or even NBC Sports Chicago, because no one's talked about it. No one's talked about it at all, which is pretty funny, but oh well. Thought I'd make this video to kind of clarify that, yes, they did actually sign Goran Dragic, which is pretty interesting. But of course, go subscribe to my gaming channel, my IRL side forum channel, and my podcast. All of them will be getting linked in the description down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.